Today, I'm going to walk us through a couple of examples of digital libraries and comment on their usability. So first, we're going to take a look at the Heard Museum. They focus on American Indian art and the art of indigenous peoples. They are located in Phoenix, Arizona. So for those of us who are not located within Arizona or the surrounding area, this allows us to have access to the materials within the collection without having to physically travel to Phoenix. We'll see there is some general library contact information, as well as a couple of live people to reach out to if you need additional help, as well as a quick note about permissions to publish and the reproduction of materials within the collection. If we go ahead and click through to the digital library itself, we'll see that there is a top-down hierarchical list of the various collections. It seems like a pretty minimal design. There's plenty of white space, as well as a good balance of these visual thumbnail images with a descriptive text indicating what you might find within that physical, what type of materials you might find within that specific collection. We'll go ahead and take a look at the general archives just as an example. So you'll see we have this horizontal toggle screen with thumbnails of the images or of the various materials and images that are housed within this particular collection. It will start scrolling. If you start scrolling, it will start flowing through all of those images. So just have a little caution there. It can get a little unruly at times. There's a brief description of the collection below here, and then along the right-hand side, some recently added materials to the collection. If you let your cursor float over one of the thumbnails, you'll get some subject tags and a further description, which is helpful when you're trying to narrow down whether or not this specific material will be pertinent to what you're looking for as a user. So this particular example is an image. You've got some image editing tools up at the top here, rotation, zooming in and out, and then the description and metadata information that follows below. There's a little, some easy access user tools up at the top here, the reference URL for sharing the material on other channels. You can add tags, make a comment, or even rate the material within the collection. You'll see at the top here there's also this handy menu that shows us it's pretty easy to recognize where we are within the collection. So we're on this particular digital scan that's within the General Archives collection. That's part of the home of the digital library itself. You may have gotten a hint from the URL or from the toolbar at the bottom. But if we go ahead and look at the source material, we know that the site has been developed by Content DM, which is a digital collection asset management software, and it actually runs on OCLC. Knowing that the Heard Museum was a client, I did a quick search and found out that they are part of a program called Enhance, where libraries can add information to bibliographic records within WorldCat. See, you can scroll down here and see that the Heard Museum is one of the participants, and this just indicates to me that they have a commitment to making their information available to as many people as possible, and specifically those who may be interested in American Indian heritage and history. Next, we'll take a look at the White House Historical Association Digital Library. We're just on the association's general site right now, and you'll see that they are a private nonprofit organization. And while they do have some pop-ups and specific exhibits that they host, there is not, as was the case with the Heard Museum, there is not a physical museum per se to go see outside of the the White House building itself. So it's a slightly different collection in that regard, in that this is all a virtual collection. You'll see here up in the right-hand corner there is a space for users to log in. It is recommended that you sign up for login credentials, which I have already done. The main difference you'll notice is there is this shopping cart for e-commerce, and then you can create folders or pin certain images within the collection if you want to come back to them, or kind of create your own highlights within the collection itself. So that's one little feature that if you don't sign up for the login credentials, which is literally just your name, your email, and creating a password, you won't have access to be able to kind of customize the collection for yourself. So then when we enter the collection, we'll see it's a little bit different layout than the Heard Museum, in that the focus really is on the visual images. Again, if you kind of let your cursor rest, some additional information does pop up, which can be helpful, again, in assessing whether or not you want to click through to that particular item. And then there's also these categories along the top indicating specific types of materials. So if we want to focus on White House rooms, we'll notice we went from about 10,000 items to just over 1,000. And then we can even get more specific and say we only want to see, let's say, the East Garden room, images or materials that have been tagged with that in mind. So here we'll see there's only one image actually. If we click on it, the orientation is a little bit different than we saw with the Heard Museum. That image is over here to the right with a visual description over here on the left. And then if some additional details as far as credit and copyright and image specs, but not really the full amount of detail that we saw in the previous digital library. Again, you might have gotten a clue from the URL, but if we take a look at the source, we see that the site has been developed using PhotoWeb, which is a product of PhotoWare. Again, this is a digital asset content management tool, so also specific to, very much with a focus specific on organizing visual materials. Because the White House collection is mostly image thumbnails, while there is visually more hierarchical filter options that we saw here along the left-hand side, overall it did feel like this collection was a bit busier. It was still easy to navigate, but it just visually it was a little bit more cluttered than the previous collection that we viewed. In general, I feel like both of these collections were fairly easy to use and navigate, and pretty minimalist, easy to recognize where you are within the collection, and fairly easy to access help as well. I guess that was a little bit less present on the White House Association website. But in general, I felt like both of these collections were also very heavily reliant on the user being able to navigate easily using a mouse. So just from an accessibility standpoint, considering, being able to have some more keyboard accessibility would probably be recommended. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening.